ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. After a break of 2 weeks, that is, on 2 Fridays, we did not have these Upanishad classes. We are back here, and looking back, we see we had seen a dozen, to be precise, a dozen, 12 of the factors that Sanat-kumāra recommends to Nārada to conduct upasana on. Do upasana on these, says Sanat-kumāra. And what is meant by doing upasana is look at them as the ultimate truth. It is an acknowledged fact of psychology that when someone is passionate about something, a lot of energy from inside that person, lady or man, comes out. Therefore, even in the Upanishads, at places it has been said, you become what you strongly desire, what you very much are after. Therefore, interestingly, Upanishads do not ask us to just to give up desires. In this portion, as we are seeing in this webinar now, Upanishads are asking us to have this desire or that desire. In fact, in the next class, we will be seeing asha, desire, aspiration, hope, etc. as the object of upasana. So, every factor among these 15, starting with nama, going up to prana, are such things that actually can be found, discovered in ourselves by every one of us. So, last class we saw the place of akasha. Even those who may not be paying attention to space, who may not be talking about it, suppose are familiarized with it. They are shown the beauty of space. Maybe they were so used to living in congested spaces. Give them a chance to live in spacious places. Once they see the grandeur, the relaxation, the beauty, the sunshine, and so on, of larger spaces, depending on the context, they would never want to go back to those congested places. Whether it is the physical space or mental space, you and I would love to have greater mental space, greater physical space. So, a liking for space is in us, but we might not have awakened that particular taste in us, that inclination in us. Therefore, upasana brings to the forefront a number of things in life which everybody actually would love to have. With that little comments by way of review, by way of recapitulation, we'll enter this evening here in India, this morning in the West for that matter, the 13th factor which Sanat-kumāra recommends for intense meditation. We have clarified time and again the word upasana may at times be translated as meditation. At other times, it is just adoring. You adore. You regard something as most wonderful. You attach great value to something. Therefore, as appropriate to the context, we have to take that particular shade of the meaning of the word upasana. And in many of these issues, in this present 7th chapter of the Chāndogya Upanishad, we actually find that adoring or attaching a great value to what Sanat-kumāra is saying is very appropriate. So with that, let's see the first slide. Interestingly, the topic in this webinar, rather in this online class, is memory. Many a place we regard memory as a shackle, as a bondage. Memory imprisons us. Memory holds us back from enjoying the vibrant present, etc. That's how the language goes. But mind you, it is not to be generalized beyond a certain point. In certain contexts, yes, memories are a cause of bondage. They chain us down. Imagine a chain is put to your foot, and other end of the chain is tied to a heavy iron ball. You can't move freely. If the chain is of 4 feet length, you can move only in a circle of 4 feet radius, because that heavy iron ball is sitting on the ground and you are tied to it with an iron chain. Memories are indeed compared with such iron chains at times, but that is a different context. Presently, we are not talking about living in the present or rising above the mind, going beyond the frontiers of thought and so on. The present context is tapping our own hidden potential. Tapping our potential in such a way that number one, we do things more effectively or efficiently. And number two, we actually rediscover the humanness in us. Please do not think that the bright side of memories, bright side of being able to remember, is only about being more effective in work. There is a more important side to memory. If we remember well, we are better human beings. It is thus that in Valmiki Ramayana, Sri Rama is described right in the first 3 or 4 verses of that great epic, Itihasa, in Valmiki Ramayana. It is said that Valmiki asks Nārada in the beginning of Valmiki Ramayana, is there somebody at this moment who is full of virtues? And one of the virtues that Valmiki mentions while asking for mention of anybody who is like that is Kritajna. Konvasmin sampratam loke gunavan kascha viryavan dharmajnascha kritajnascha satyavakyo dridhavrataha is the verse. First kanda, that is Balakanda, first sarga, and then second shloka. Kritajna. Rama was known for remembering whatever help he had received from anybody. And based on that remembrance, he would remain grateful. Kritajna means grateful. Gratitude is a great human quality. Therefore, when I said a while ago, in order to be noble human beings, we need to have memory. That is the context. We remember so and so did so much for us. And out of that remembering, we remain grateful. If we are not grateful, no matter how efficient we are at some professional area, we are not good human beings, right? So a whole lot of tapping our own inner potential to be good human beings requires memory. Having mentioned Ramayana, it is worthwhile making a quick reference to Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 10, Gita says, Smriti, that is, being able to remember, is a divine quality, really speaking in all, but in a certain context, Gita attaches it to women. Kirtihi Shrir Vakcha Narinam Smritir Medha Dhriti Kshama. Smriti. And in another Upanishad, namely Kathopanishad, Nachiketa remembers how eminent, noble people in the past had acted in certain challenging circumstances. Remember, he remembers. And remembering the examples set by great people, Nachiketa decides to act with the highest integrity and accepts his father's wish that he go to Lord Yama. Anupashya yatha purve pratipashya tata apare is the sixth mantra in the very first valli in Kathopanishad. Memories are indeed an asset, a wealth. No wonder towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, feeling very blessed at receiving all those great instructions and other teachings from Sri Krishna, makes the statement, Nashto mohaha smritir labdha. My delusion is gone. My erroneous thinking and false judgments are all gone. I have regained memory, memory of who I am, memory of my true identity, memory of how I have been made by God, memory of my duties, memory of what I have promised to Yudhishthira, my eldest brother, and so on. Smritir Labdha, he totally confesses that all the wise looking questions that he had asked Sri Krishna at the beginning of the Gita were really product of the delusion. Really speaking, if only he had good memory, he would not make any such comments or ask any such questions. He would straight go ahead and fight the dharmika yuddha. Thus, we have a place for memory in human life. We'll soon get back to how Chāndogya Upanishad, in the very section we are studying, the 13th Khanda, brings memory. In what way it brings memory into the topic, we'll see. But before that, in a general sense, when you and I get depressed at times, one medicine for depression is we consciously remember our good times. Remember the times where we had done well, where we had served people, where we had rendered help to people in need. When we remember those good times, not good in the sense of enjoyment, but good in the sense of having done something noble, we get cheered up. Otherwise, our own mind says we are very useless, we are worthless. Therefore, memory has an incredible place in being human, being a noble person, being efficient, and so on. With that, let's enter the second slide now, where the Chāndogya Upanishad talks about how memory is more beautiful, more an asset than an awareness of space. The 12th factor was Akasha. Now we are entering the 13th factor for Upasana, that is Smara or memory. Memory is indeed greater than space, goes the English translation. What is it in Sanskrit? Smaro vava akashad bhuyah. Smaranam is neuter. Bhuyaha would have fitted with it very well. But smaraha is masculine. Therefore, even in Shankara's commentary, he hastens to add, please take the word bhuyaha as bhuyan. It's just a little grammar. You use the word smaraha, it has to be akashat bhuyan. If you use the word smaranam, bhuyaha, neuter. And if you were to use the word smritihi, which is feminine, then it would be akashat bhuyasi. Bhuyan, bhuyasi, bhuyaha are masculine, feminine, and neuter forms to imply higher, greater. Why do we say memory is of greater value than even akasha, space? The reason, the basis, the logical basis is given by the mantra itself. Yadyapi bahavaha asiran. Suppose in a class where the teacher is teaching the Veda, Vedanta, or one of the precious and sacred texts. We have some 14 Vidyasthanas, 6 Vedas, 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas, Shiksha, Kalpa, Nirukta, Jyotisha, Chandas, and Vyakarana, 6 Vedangas, and then Ramayana, Mahabharata, Itihasa, and then some other 2, some 14. There are various classifications. So Guru is teaching one of them, and imagine, Bahavaha Asiran, many are in the class, but many of them, or a good number of among them, Nasmarantaha, they don't remember what was taught in the earlier class, or they don't remember what was taught in the earlier semester. They have forgotten the basics, they have forgotten the fundamentals, but they are sitting and trying to understand. How will they understand? Naivate kanchana shranayuhu. They would not really listen, meaning grasp anything. Na manviran. They cannot do manana. If you don't get the basics, then how will you do advanced reflection on the matter? Therefore, na vijaniran. They would not understand. They simply nod their heads sometimes at the wrong time. And sometimes they smile when others are smiling. Others laugh, they also laugh, but they wonder what the joke was. They would not understand. Whereas only when the students remember what was taught before, remember the definitions, remember the issues raised, and therefore are very aware of the background of the whole discussion, then yada vavate smareyuhu, when they remember, atashrunuyuhu, when their listening goes to a higher level. They listen on a higher plane. When they listen on a higher plane, which means with greater understanding, manviran, they are able to reflect, logically think about what they heard today. And out of that manana, arises vijnana, ata vijaniran. It is thus that they would know vijnana. And praising the power of memory, the mantra says, Smarena vai putran vijana. A father cannot even know his sons. Putran is in plural, therefore we say sons, or it could be just one son. A father would not recognize his son if the father did not have memory. When people have Alzheimer's disease, these days around the world we hear of somebody or the other suffering from Alzheimer's disease. They don't remember at all. Their memory goes for a toss. They are so inconsistent. In the movie in Hindi, many years ago, there was one. It was based somewhat, not fully, somewhat on the life of Helen Keller, who was blind. So in this Hindi movie, the black Amitabh Bachchan plays the role of a dedicated teacher who instructs and teaches a blind girl, educates her. He becomes a very loving companion for that little girl. But as years pass towards the end of the movie, we have a heartbreaking scene. The girl has grown up to an educated, smart woman, but she is blind even now. So her teacher goes with her to the marketplace and then they both decide to eat some ice cream. 100 times the teacher had brought her to the market and they had enjoyed ice cream, nothing new. But once more, because she is blind, the teacher, played by Amitabh, asks her, played by Rani Mukherjee, to sit down on a bench and says, I'll get 2 ice creams, let's enjoy them as we did always. So he goes to an ice cream shop and collects 2 ice creams, holds them both in his both his hands. Now the old man loses memory. The teacher at that old age suffers from Alzheimer or one of those kinds of ailments. He has taken the 2 ice creams in hand, is happy, but he forgets why he bought two. He looks at them. Why did I buy two? I am one. Where was the need to get two? He completely forgets his dear student sitting on a bench just 200 meters away. And then, to add to the trouble, he starts walking in the opposite direction. And the blind girl has no way to figure out that my dear teacher has walked away in another direction. So, very sad case. There was a joke also. Somebody was suffering from bad loss of memory. And then his friends or his family members said, go to the doctor and the doctor will do something. And he goes to the doctor. The doctor welcomes him, gives him a seat and asks him, tell me what your problem is. The patient forgets what the problem was. He just looks at the doctor and says, I forgot why I came here, and goes back. Maybe it repeats several times. Till he goes to the doctor, he knows what he has to ask. Exactly there he forgets. In a humorous story of Mullah Nasruddin, Nasruddin had promised something to his wife while going for office in the morning. And lest he should forget what he had promised, he ties a thread to his finger so that looking at the thread, he should remember what he had promised his wife. And he goes to the office, and now 5 o'clock is the closing time. At 4:30 itself, he says, He looks at the thread tied very tightly to his finger. I had promised something to my wife. I should not forget it. In order that I may remember it easily, I tied this thread. But why did I tie this thread? He goes on wondering. He can't remember. All he remembers is I tied this thread on my index finger of the right hand to remember the promise I made to her. But now the question is, what was that promise I made to her? While all leave the office at 5 p.m., he says, until I remember what I had promised, I will not leave the office. So he sits up to 6:30 p.m. Then he remembers, oh, today was her birthday and I had promised her to come back home early. I should have gone back early. But instead of doing that, I sat an hour and a half more just to recollect. Lots of problems do happen. As we get older, sometimes in our house itself, we rush from one room to another. But after reaching there, we are unable to remember why we went to that other room. To pick up what? To drop what? To look for what? We stand there for a few seconds and then quietly we come back to the room where we were otherwise sitting. So, countless are the problems that arise when we forget things. Therefore, please don't think that the Upanishad mantra is overstating the issue of loss of memory. Smarena, when you have proper memory, putran vijanati, pita putran vijanati, smarena, smaranena, smriti shaktya, pashun vijanati. Otherwise, like absent-minded professors, we would be doing all sorts of silly things. An absent-minded professor was going in rain, and when the rain stopped, he was going with hands held like this. When the rain stopped, he said, let me now close the umbrella. Then he realized that he was not holding any umbrella, only his hands were in the position of holding an umbrella. He had held the hands like that, imagining he had an umbrella in his hands. Some other absent-minded professor had bought a new car and proudly took his wife to the market. And as his wife was doing more and more shopping, he said to her, do you mind if I come back later to the shop? I'll take a walk nearby on the sidewalk. And when he comes out, he forgets what he told her. And then by old habit, he boards a bus and goes home. Look at the problem his wife would have had. And the best of all is an absent-minded professor visits another professor's home for dinner, and dinner is over. Afterwards, they sit down for some discussion. It goes for 2 or 3 hours. And the host professor is waiting for this professor to leave because the host was feeling very sleepy. But a point comes maybe at 11:30 or 12 midnight. The host politely asks the guest, don't you think it is time for you to go home now? We have had dinner, we have had plenty of discussion. Then the guest says, oh, am I supposed to go? I thought this is my home and you are my guest. Oh, sorry. I forgot that I am the guest here and you are the host. Sorry. Then he gets up and goes home. So, Chāndogya Upanishad is not exaggerating. If you have memory loss, you will not recognize who your son is, which animals are yours and which animals belong to others. So, combining very simple examples, with the context of scriptural study and remembering lots of important teachings of the scriptures, all the same. Chāndogya Upanishad makes a strong case for every one of us to recognize the value of memory. Let's see whether there are a couple of points which need to be mentioned from Shankara Bhashya. Shankara, as I already said, makes us or asks us to take bhuyaha as bhuyan, that is a grammatical adjustment. Yes. So there is one expression which deserves to be mentioned. When the mantra says smarova or smarovava akashat bhuyaha or bhuyan, memory is superior to space or our understanding of space, our adoration of space, our being able to value space. Compared with that, our being able to value memory and thus improve in our memory power is more important when it says. So why is it said so? Acharya Shankara says, Smaranavato bhogyatvat asati tu smarane sadapi asadeva. You and I will be able to enjoy higher things of life if we have memory operating very well. Higher things is implied, whether it is intellectual studies or music or dance or art. In every one of these subjects, when we learn, we climb steps and further steps. You will be able to appreciate and enjoy, let's say, a complicated mathematical problem and how it is solved if you remember a lot of basic steps of mathematics. You will be able to enjoy an advanced raga in music only if you remember a number of other simpler ragas that eventually lead to that higher raga. Even in Vedanta study, you will be able to appreciate and thoroughly enjoy a Vedanta class where some advanced topic of the three states of experience, what actually happens, to whom these three states, Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupta, happen, and what is the relation between waking and dream and deep sleep, and what is the actual relation between the three states and pure self. There are all these advanced questions. Can you ever understand how significant these questions are? Can you ever enjoy certain insightful comments that Adi Shankara or other commentators make on these issues if you have completely forgotten the Vedanta view of the three states? If you are stuck in modern science and where they would say dream is some phenomenon in your brain, it is some kind of brain activity where your eyes, ears, nose, etc., that generally know the waking world are not operating, and certain brain functions create another world. And deep sleep is when there is no brain function, everything is quiet, or they connect it to some rapid eye movement. Rapid eye movement is connected to sleep. When REM, rapid eye movement is going on, and in the brain, certain pictures are emerging. Modern science has its own theories. You are being able to remember what modern science, modern medicine, modern neurology, modern psychology say about deep sleep or dream will not help you understand and deeply appreciate the Vedanta's outlook towards dream and deep sleep. Vedanta dismisses the theory of modern science. It says, within the frame of reference of waking state, yeah, you may say 100 things. You may proudly talk about a number of laws of physics and other subjects. But Vedanta says, in awareness, waking state is an appearance. Jagradavastha is an appearance. And when there is dream, though it may seem very contrary to modern science, modern medicine, or as I said, neurology, etc., though it may seem contrary, Vedanta says, when dream comes, when dream happens, the waking state is completely removed from the scenario, lock, stock, and barrel. Waking came, waking went. Dream came, dream went. In deep sleep, nothing comes. You are just pure awareness. Where you are and you will be pure awareness. Time comes and time goes. Dream time rises and dream time goes. In waking space came along with the waking state. So when we say lock, stock, and barrel, that means in its entirety, the space of waking has nothing to do whatsoever with the space of dream. The time of waking has nothing to do whatsoever with the time that you perceive in dream. And in deep sleep, there is no time, no space in Sushupti. These are some of the things said in the advanced Vedanta. Unless you understand, unless you remember many basic definitions, basic clarifications that the Vedanta teacher would have given you, you would just blink. And you remaining very attached to something that you had studied or heard years ago, some imperfect model, some inaccurate model, etc. And with that, you are trying to grapple with the new light thrown on the matter. All right, why are we talking about it? Shankara makes a very wonderful statement. Sattva karya abhavat. He says, if you have no memory, then even Sat becomes Asat. That's the sentence before the Sattva karya abhavat. Asati tu smarane, sadapi asadeva. Asati tu smarane. When there is no memory, maybe there was a damage to your brain, which can happen if you are too attached to pleasure, drinks, smoking, or people. You are too attached to X or Y, A or B. You are attached to pursuit of power, position, fame, name, this chair and that honor, and all the time you are into it. Your brain gets damaged. You will be a PhD in a different sense. Somebody said PhD means permanent head damage. God forbid. Therefore, spiritual seekers have to be very cautious about pleasure seeking, about things of the world. It's a very delicate topic. We'll not go into that now, but with tremendous responsibility, with great care, without going to extremes, a spiritual seeker conducts himself in a responsible manner. And more than physical health, more than mental peace, he has a wonderfully performing brain, an undamaged brain. A brain that has not got damaged. I'm using the waking state language, but otherwise, we would say the buddhi. When you are studying Vedanta, you are studying Vedanta with your buddhi. And this buddhi is freed from a whole lot of possible damages. And there is excellent memory. When there is memory, Shankara says, asati smarane. Take the opposite. Sati smarane. Sati means when it is present. When you have good memory, then Sat is truly Sat. Otherwise, Sadapi Asadeva. Then the sentence comes. I will comment on it and then leave the Shankara Bhashya. Sattva Karya Abhavat. If memory is not functioning, you perceive something, and what you perceive will not be the product of something that really is. Without going for a new example, take the example of that teacher who loses memory in the movie The Black. The Black went to Oscars also, but did not win a prize. It was a wonderful movie with a great teaching also, noble and inspiring stuff, because Helen Keller's life to an extent. So the teacher is holding two ice creams. Now there is a memory loss. He is not able to connect the second ice cream to the young student sitting on the bench who is blind. She is somebody who is the cause, and this ice cream is actually the effect of her wanting ice cream. But then, since she is forgotten, he is unable to remember her. Then this ice cream, the karya, has no connection to something existing. Sattva karya abhava. If he had good memory, having taken the two ice creams, he walks at two steps. There she is. She's waiting to get this ice cream. He is able to connect the ice cream with that blind student of his whom he loves a lot. That is sattva. Sattva means something that is. Now he has the ice cream. There is nothing real, nothing true which connects with the ice cream. So he goes in some opposite direction. Poor man. So Shankara connects this in a terrific manner. How memory is required in spirituality and in play life also. There are no other significant points. Shankara gives the meanings of the mantras in the khanda. So we go to the last slide of our presentation, which is nothing special. The way things were said in the previous 12 khandas, here too. Sayah smaram brahma iti upaste. Whoever thus understands, let me put it in this language. You and I, in spite of Vedanta, sometimes sleep in a disorderly manner, eat in a disorderly manner, overeat or undereat, or eat what should not be eaten, talk what should not be talked. We mess up our daily life. There is disorder in our daily life. Someone like J. Krishnamurti spoke at length, not on Upanishads, but certain topics which he picked up as very important. The day after tomorrow at a J. Krishnamurti center, 2 hours away from Mumbai, I have to speak on order in daily life. And I am, without going more into J. Krishnamurti, let me connect. If you truly value your ability to remember, you will not mess up your daily life. Your daily life will be orderly, with a sense of responsibility of spending every gram of energy, every ounce of energy in you properly, from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed. you will live in certain order. Not saying something and later saying, oh, I should not have said it. Not eating something and then later saying, I should not have eaten. So on. That's all disorderly life. So with a certain inner awakening, you see, you live in an orderly manner. That incidentally is called brahmacharya also. Satyam, ahimsa, brahmacharyam. They are called cardinal values. So those of us who live in true brahmacharya are very cautious about what we eat, how much we sleep, how much we talk, where we go, what company we go for, and so on and so forth. Then that connects to the present topic. We will be safeguarding our ability to remember right thing at the right time. Arjuna had lost it. Then towards the end of Gita, he says, Smritir Labdha. Oh no. In Sadhu's life also, sometimes it happens. Somebody would have joined an ashram in the Himalayas with certain purpose. But 15 years pass and he completely forgets why he had come to Himalayas, why he joined the ashram, what were the earlier goals. Instead of it, he is fighting a court case in Lucknow about a small piece of land. He purchased a piece of land in Haridwar, let us say, and he is studying law books. He is going from court to court or lawyer to lawyer and even meeting politicians and so on. One day he thinks, I left acres and acres of land in my hometown, told my parents I don't need any of the family's property, I am going to be a monk. And now for this 40 by 30 piece of land in Haridwar, what am I doing? You know, but unless the fellow has a pure mind, he would not so easily get out of it. He will only say, once this case is settled, I will go back to proper living. This case has to be settled. I have to get my 30 feet by 40 feet piece back because I have to build a kutia there facing Ganga, blah, blah, blah. Leave it right now, if you say. So, both in mundane life and in spiritual context, memory is so valuable. Yaha Brahma iti smaram upaste. Whoever adores memory and for the sake of keeping one's memory, keeping one's buddhi, keeping one's brain in fine shape, one lives an orderly life. Then yavat smarasya gatam tatrasya yatha kamacharo. This doesn't need much elaboration, but rather than skipping it, let's briefly say, when you have terrific memory of both mundane and spiritual matters, your life will be so wonderful and the world will want you. You will be respected, you will be welcomed, you will be invited. People would want to be by your side. People would want to learn from you. What makes you so cheerful? What makes your face so resplendent? They will ask you. All this is because of a certain orderly living, of which terrific memory is one sign. Yaha smaram brahmeti upaste tasya yatha kamachar. So he or she, such a lady with wonderful, fine brain, fine buddhi, whether she goes to Australia or Africa, America or Japan, or stays in her own village or city, she is going to shine. So many things become possible for her. That is the meaning of yatha kamachara. Whatever she wants to do, she will be able to do because certain inner powers have been awakened in her. Nārada is, as before, more excited than ever before. He says, Bhagavah, oh Bhagavan, this is exciting, but Smaradapi Bhuyaha Kinchidapi Asti va? Asti Bhagava Smarad Bhuyaha iti. And with a smile, you can imagine, Sanat-kumāra says, there is something even more beautiful than wonderful, good, healthy memory. Smarad Bhuyaha Asti, there is. Tanme Bhagavan Bravitu. Please tell me what is higher than memory. Sanat-kumāra doesn't say, I don't remember it now. Sanat-kumāra says, there is something higher, but I will tell you next class. Nārada has to wait for a week then. Om Namah Paramarashibhyo. Namah Paramarashibhyaha.